I'm a huge fan of comedy. And I did not know this person before this happened, but a man named Brody Stevens passed away a few weeks ago, and he was a stand-up comedian, a well-renowned one, especially in the community. Not the biggest household name, but super funny. I looked up a bunch of his things after he passed, and I love it. He was just super unique. But he passed because he hung himself. Unfortunately, he suffered from depression. Watching other people's podcasts, pretty much everyone in the comedy world and in the podcast world had a little segment talking about Brody and how awesome he was, and they all just like sang his praises and said how amazing he was. And they all just talked about how he was on his medications, he was off, he was playing with things, but it was just like a constant process with him, much like anybody else who suffers from depression. And when I was like looking back and I watched some of his stand-up, and I watched also him on other podcasts, and he was always talking about how it's clear. It's like you watch his stand-up and he's talking about like one of his catchphrases. Almost every other joke is like positive energy, you got it. He's like this upbeat, fun-loving dude, and you can see that, like, I'm not trying to be an armchair psychologist. I don't know this person. I don't want to speak out of context, but it looks like, through his comedy, much like any other person who is a creative, who is an artist, they're using their art as a way to get out what they're working through, and I do a little bit of that. I think we all try to do that on a certain at a certain point, but man, the thing about Brody is, like, I started thinking after watching all of his stuff and seeing the way he operated and the way he conducted himself, and he was always positive energy. He always talked about vitamins and like taking care of himself and eating healthy and it was clear to see that he was trying to do everything that he could do, not just take medications to feel better. Excuse me. And it's my podcast. I'll excuse myself. And so it was clear to see that, but it got me thinking. And a lot of his friends, a lot of people, and this happens in all the situations that I've gone through, everyone kind of looks back at the fact when you unfortunately lose someone. And you think, like, what else could I have done? Could I have give that person an extra hug, or told them that I love them? Or just been there for them a little bit more, or whatever, reached out. And the unfortunate thing that I think I've come to the conclusion is that, like, you can't do anything. You can do all that you possibly can do to try and get them out of these holes. But at the end of the day, it's kind of up to the individual person. And that's like a really sad thing to say. Like, and that's not to say, like, obviously don't try. Love on people. Give people extra hugs. Call them and tell them they love them out of the blue. Give them advice. Treat everyone with kindness and respect. And just, like I said, love on people. Do everything. Give them the right numbers to get help. Real, physicians. All that stuff matters for sure, and it can help. But at the end of the day, some people just can't pull themselves out of it. And I think it's up to each individual person, and I'm going to get to this in a second, is like, it's up to us to pull ourselves out of it, and it's up to us to even prevent it from even happening first. And I guess that's my biggest point, which I can get into, is that, like, every single thing in this life is about prevention, and everybody just wants to I'm the worst with it too. Like, think about it. We procrastinate from day one since we were kids and going through school. We procrastinate off of everything. And it's honestly just like, we can't do that, because at a certain point, especially with sicknesses, if it's a test, it's one fucking thing. You fail a test, who gives a shit? But at a certain point in time, with sicknesses and mental illnesses, and we're still trying to figure these things out. We don't understand them. We don't understand how they work and how they vary from person to person. It's by the time things are diagnosed, it could be too late. I want to make my point here And let's just say, my point is no one fucking knows. No one really knows. Studies change all the time. We get a little bit better idea, understanding of things. No one really fucking knows. So keep an open mind about pretty much anything that you're learning, especially in these spaces. But let's just say that inflammation, there's definitely, like I said, people that are depressed have not only a higher core body temperature across the board, according to studies that smarter people than I have done, and also they have a higher level of inflammation compared to others at baseline. Okay, so let's just say that most of these issues have to do with inflammation. How do we stop? How do we prevent it? How do we reduce inflammation? There's a lot of fucking ways. There's no magic pill. Just like anything else in life, there's no magic pill. So the things that I always like to stress, or lack of stress actually, things that I always like to talk about are the big four. And for me, that's your diet and nutrition, it's exercising, it's stress reduction, stress management, and also sleep. And now a lot of these things kind of overlap. But like I said, everybody wants a magic pill, but you have to put in the work to do all of these things. Okay? So there's tons of studies coming out, and they all cross-reference. It seems to cross-reference each other. Again, I'm not smart, but I'm looking back and seeing all these people and all these scientists debate about how all of these things are, I don't know, better than the other and whatnot. But I'm like, hey, we have to do all of them. That's why we have to do all of them. When running, let's just say running, for an example, like running, elevating your body temperature. This doctor that's leading all this research that I actually just talked about is treating people with depression with essentially hyperthermic conditioning. So elevating your core body temperature. So it's like saunas, steam rooms, doing hot yoga, taking hot baths. Elevating core body temperature seems to have profound effects. And so when you're doing this, I don't know if you've ever, you can experience this a bit when you exercise. How good do you feel when you're done? It sucks. It still sucks for me every time I go out, and I never want to do it. I never want to run. But when I'm done, I'm in such a flow state, and I feel so good because of everything that's going on in your brain. Beta endorphins, it's just like you get into a flow state, and norepinephrine just kind of goes through the roof. You creating these heat shock proteins that are activating genes and turning on and expressing these genes that they might have to do with, longevity specifically. They might anti-inflammatory. It could be a numerous amount of things. It could be whatever. But the sauna does the exact same thing. Bro, have you ever gone into the sauna? Do you even sauna, bro? When I go into the sauna, let's just say this. Sometimes I feel like shit. I'm in a funk, like a mental funk, or I just don't feel good. I'm achy, whatever. I feel like shit. And, I go into the sauna and I'm like, or let's just say I go to the gym, and I'm about to undress. I'm comfortable generally with the way with what sweet baby Jesus gave me, let's just say I'm a grower, not a shower. So I'm comfortable generally, but I might turn my back. I might turn my chest away like this. So other people, like creepers, anybody perving, I'm a little self-conscious before I go in, but when I come out, it's another story, baby. It's another story. I come out and it's just the towel comes off, I'm just talking to people. It's out, swanging, and I'm talking to people. Hey Jeff, what's going on, man? How's your daughter? Yeah, and I'm out here like this, shoulders back, feeling good, don't even give a shit, And again, I'm a grower, not a shower, so it's it's unfortunate below the equator there. But let's just say I rise to the occasion, I don't know how I just got to embarrassing myself through that. But what I'm saying is that shit is real. Exercise, elevating your core body temperature, sweating, dropping all these powerful compounds have a profound effect on us. And I feel fucking phenomenal when you get out of there. There's not a care in the world when I get out of the sauna or hot yoga or get done with a run. And, people want to consider what's on the outside. Everybody wants to flex on people, but it's not just about your physical. It's just like all these things are actually, even these factors are better for your brain, or just as important for your brain as it is for anything else. And people don't get that. And I understand there's so much data and it is super confusing. But like, we don't understand. You have to take the steps, and no one really does it. You have to take back the power. It's like the knowledge. You can't make these excuses anymore about like ignorance is bliss or whatever. I don't want to run around stressing about this shit. Like my friend Gina, for example, I was at her house and the girl's got more candles than you could ever fucking imagine. She's got all these candles, and I was like, hey, Gina, these candles got paraffin in them. And if you don't know, paraffin may or may not be, probably, carcinogenic, potentially carcinogenic when burn, and breathing it in. When you're breathing it in, especially in a closed, small quarters apartment in LA, it's not a good idea to have this going on. So I was like, hey, what's up with these candles? And she was like, for fuck's sake, chef. Like, she's like, I can't just be worried about everything, because over the last couple weeks, as we've gotten closer, I'm just telling her all the shit that she's doing wrong, basically. She should be worried about, okay? But she was like, we go outside, we live under the smog. Like, there's only so much you can do. And that is exactly, she proved my point. There is only so much that you can do. You don't have control over it going out. Like right now, I live really close to, you can probably even hear it in the back. I live close to the freeway, I'm not happy about that. I'm trying to change that. There's certain things that are out of your control, but there are so many things that are in your fucking control. And I don't know if it's like that people choose that ignorance is bliss kind of thing, but when it comes to sickness and everything, it's like ignorance isn't bliss. Like, ignorance will get you sick. If you're suffering, there are so many people out there, and I know it's not easy to see this at first, but there's so many people out there that want to help you and that can help you. Obviously, friends and family, if you don't feel like you have friends or family, there are, believe it or not, a lot of strangers out there that want to fucking help. Whether it's like that's their actual job and it's a hotline, or quite honestly, like people like me. It's a huge part of this podcast, what I'm trying to build with my social media platforms. I want this to help other people. Like I said, I've learned so much by listening to other people. Just in case you guys didn't know what listening was. By listening to other people. And I want to do that for other people. I'm not the most qualified, but if I've been through some fucking shit, a lot of shit that I don't talk about. I've been through a lot, and I have been depressed. Not clinically. A lot of it was situational. But I have been there. I know what it's like to like fucking not want to get out of bed. And every day is a struggle with that. So like, first of all, don't be afraid of pharmaceutical drugs at all. They can help. If they can get you out of bed, that's all that fucking matters, because every step counts. The smallest steps, building that momentum. Momentum's a motherfucker in both ways. Starting something or stopping something, momentum's pretty tough thing to stop. So pharmaceutical drugs can help. But should you work with somebody who knows all the shit that I was just talking about? Like me, honestly, I can help, or anybody else in your area. If you want to sit down and speak to somebody in private, if you want to have consultations with me and you're just struggling, like, I want to fucking help. But you should also be working with somebody who's licensed and a doctor and can, in the beginning at least, give you pharmaceutical drugs. The right ones, not fucking mixing all of them, not multiple types and multiple doses. Like this same doctor that I referred to earlier, that's kind of covering all this depression stuff, is talking about like how stupid it is to just dose the whole brain with like different drugs or SSRIs or whatever. This serotonin acts differently on different receptors. So if you apply serotonin to one receptor, it could lower your core body temperature. Or if you apply it to another one, it could raise your core body temperature. They think a lot of the reasons they'd say it could take a couple weeks for shit to start working correctly is because when you just dose the whole brain, certain receptors can actually turn off endogenous serotonin production. Endogenous meaning inside. Endo, remember that. And so it's like, it's a dumb fucking idea to just dose the entire brain with drugs, but it can help in the beginning. So what I'm saying is, like, the future is about prevention, a future of everything. The present, right now, it's about prevention. Don't procrastinate any fucking longer. I just wish people, gave a shit about it, but they don't. Usually people don't make a change until it's too late. I've been talking for a long fucking time, but man, reach out to people. If you're suffering from depression, get your shit together in the most loving way possible. Know that it's fucking possible. Get out of bed, do whatever you got to do. Put on, like, YouTube, go to David Goggins. If you don't know who David Goggins is, go to David Goggins' fucking Instagram and his YouTube. Download that shit to your phone and listen to that shit every day, But believe that you can dig yourself out of it. And like I said, reach out to people, DM people. A lot of people respond. I'll respond. So reach out to me, and I'll do everything that I can to help.